Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. We are currently unsupervised with Mr. Sean Frasier, owner of Wise Blood Records, who has braved the podcast and our shenanigans yet again to talk about his first year as a label owner. So we are super stoked to have him back. And before we get started, I do just want to say thank you for joining us again. It is wonderful to see how brave you are.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think this is my third time. So, I
I
must be a
know,
glutton for
apparently you like
punishment.
us or something.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me back yet again.
Cool.
Anytime. And Curtis, I'm sure you just want to dive right on in.
I want to dive right on in. Yeah. So let's talk about, so Sean's been on before. He's been here as a writer. He's been here as a label owner. So he wears a lot of hats in the industry. But today we're going to talk about his first year as the owner of Wise Blood Records. So you started it last spring?
Yeah. So I actually started, my first release date was early January of 2021.
Yeah.
So I released Mother of Graves and Vexing Hex that day. And here we are, a little over, almost 14 months, I guess, later. I've learned a lot. Curtis, and it's not just personal experience. There's been a lot of people along the way that noticed. I think that my intentions were good and wanted to sort of nudge me towards a slightly more professional, endeavor.
So I guess the first question then would be: Are you enjoying being a label owner? Or...
See, that cuts to the heart of really what I think people forget about running a label is that it is a job. It is a job. Now, if you're only doing like a boutique label, maybe like a cassette label or something, you could get away with 5 to 10 hours a week as a hobby. But if you're going to do a multi-format, steady release schedule label, it's a full-time job basically. I enjoy it almost always. There are times when burning the candle or the wick at like both ends.
Yeah.
If I get a bad night of sleep or if I get sick, there's really nobody else to pick up the slack. So I've been kind of under siege by different maladies since December. So I got COVID in December. January, I had a mobility issue with my leg, and all this stuff just compounded. Where I was like, okay, it's a lot of days of me with like a bandaged up foot, or me with currently my blood vessels in my eye popped because I got sick recently, and I'm like, well, I still gotta pack these labels, so I'm there haggard, bent over it. Those days aren't fun. Because there's no cavalry coming. But the rest of the stuff is awesome. Like the artists are a lot of fun. The fans are like super appreciative. It's personally rewarding. So there's dark moments though. Like I can't lie. I don't want to paint a bunch of rainbows, like there's some dark skies sometimes.
Well, I think a lot of people forget about that because I do know that a lot of people that do start up new labels, they don't take that into consideration, and then they get sick or whatever, and then they don't pack anything up for months, and people wonder where the heck they've gone. And yeah, so where was I going with that? So how do you kind of make sure that you keep yourself motivated in order to keep going on the dark days?
Well, the letting people down and disappointing people is something that would cause even more injury. It would damage my reputation also socially because half of my roster is here in Indianapolis. So the real world consequences of bailing and not shipping people stuff, or backing out of contracts or whatever, all the stuff that kind of plagues new labels. I actually think I don't think I need that, like real world consequence. I'm pretty good at managing projects, but it's kind of a cool, like the stakes are higher, because if I mess up, these are the friends that might see me when I'm bartending. or when I'm working an event at a brewery or something. So there's no escaping if I mess up, in a major way. But apart from that, I want to see the music succeed. So even if it takes a long night or a long day of packing and shipping, the reward is there, and it's still there after a year.
Fair. Corey, did you want to follow up anything?
Well, kind of getting away from the dark days a little bit, what has been your favorite part of running the label, just to date, the thing that you look forward to most?
Oh man, yeah. Well, the spring and summer are coming this way in the American Midwest, and with that comes outdoor concert season, and being able to see people at these shows that you can fit a lot more people into a big outdoor space than with the capacity of an indoor venue around here. So we broke the attendance record last year at a local heavy metal venue called Black Circle. We broke their attendance record with Grave Ripper.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. That was such a solid release. Actually, I have it. It's right there.
Oh yeah, there's a beautiful yellow bastard of a cassette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think all of those cassettes are Wise Blood cassettes.
Oh, that is awesome. It looks a little shooting gallery.
I won't shoot them, I promise.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. But that's the part that I love is when I can make it to a live show, set up a table, and just have people come over and chat about the music I've released, music that we've heard outside the label, all that stuff that reminds us that the social element of music is alive and strong. Because I really value the connections I've made with people around the globe, but this is also a locally and regionally focused label. So getting that sense of pride from people here in Indiana, which is my adopted home. I'm a New Yorker. It's felt really great to be embraced by the community here.
So kind of going off topic, but not really going off topic, like you've signed a lot of different styles of bands. So how do you kind of like have the Wise Blood band, like how do you kind of figure out what a Wise Blood band is, I guess, other than they're from Indiana, I guess? Yeah.
I've been trying to find what's like a common thread throughout a lot of them. And this isn't necessary, but I do like genre blending, and I do like a sense of, it doesn't have to be fun, but enthusiasm, because sometimes a recording just doesn't capture a sort of vibrant spirit, and a band might have that on stage, but I need to hear that in the recording. So I like energetic recordings. I like things that are difficult to describe with a single genre qualifier. So something like last year, like Kriegsgrave, I think that was one of the best black metal records of the year, and we got turned down by several YouTube channels because it wasn't black metal enough.
But it was stunning. I agree with you.
So and that's okay. Like, I love that band, and I think they'll continue to gain new fans and turn heads because they're such a talented project. But I'm always going to be drawn to stuff that makes me curious to learn more. So usually traditional examples of a genre are probably not going to grab my attention as much as something that will blend this, like, familiar but different, kind of like the old Hollywood adage. It's like something that might touch on genres that I love but puts a new spin on it.
Fair. Like you've had a couple things that seem kind of quite different than what I expected. Like Milk Toast was one, for example. Like, how did you kind of pick something like that when you primarily got a lot of heavier stuff? So how do you kind of like go like this is a Wise Blood band in that sense. Like I get the energy part, but it's quite stylistically different. For example, that one, for example.
No, you're spot on. Milquetoast is actually the band that most directly nudged me into creating a label. Because I was that was the summer before, the summer where I created the label. Basically, I saw them perform at an outdoor show, and it was like the first concert I had really seen since COVID started. And they were playing to just a lawn full of people sunbathing, basically. But their bassist Andy was crawling over everything that could be crawled on. Just the sort of dual caterwaul nature of their vocals, the exuberant, sort of joyful chaos of their set reminded me of what I like in punk. And they're metal adjacent. It's still pretty thick and heavy, but you're right. It nudged me into an area where, okay, well, can I consider stuff that's maybe more punk or more grunge? And is that okay? And I decided, hell yeah, because this is my time. This is what I spend, 25 to 40 hours a week on. And I just want to release stuff that is really meaningful to me. And luckily, there's been a lot of other people that have said, actually, this music is, my taste also. So something that's kind of like a weird combination of styles, like Milquetoast, now sort of feels more at home. But I kind of had to use them as guinea pigs to be like, okay, let's see how we do, with picking up coverage from some places that aren't just extreme metal focused.
And I take it that went well.
It did. It went really well with that. The struggle has been more with the album that comes out this Friday, which is Sundown. They're like a melodic hardcore, post-hardcore band. Really amazing band. The hooks and songs are just so massive and well written, but they're not metal, and I can't pitch them as metal. So it's been humbling finding attention from new outlets who they hear Decibel Magazine and they don't really know what that means. They don't really care, because their world is more like hot water music or quicksand, and there's some crossover there, but not real. They're metal and hardcore. That crossover element, I guess in music coverage, is just not as linked as I thought it might be. So that's one element where I was like, I got a lot to learn in terms of handling PR, which I knew anyway. But you're both in the PR game, and you probably see the sort of subsets of genres and how you kind of like unfold venue to venue, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Corey, did you have a follow-up before I go into another topic?
Not on that. I have my own other topic.
Then you go.
Okay. Well, so I know that you are pretty regionally focused for as far as your roster goes. But how do you find that you are able to break into other markets being so regionally focused? Is it like more difficult to break into Europe being so regionally focused, or break into other areas in the US being so regionally focused? Or do you feel that people don't really care what region things are coming from?
I don't think people care generally. I think in Europe, the thing that's in the way is all shipping and logistic related. And that's the toughest nut to crack there. But I think, I have a pretty strong presence in Indonesia, and my presence in Europe is growing slowly. And I think they're just excited to hear new music. If it's American, I think sometimes there's a little bit of an allure to that. But I don't really think it matters. Like, oh, are they from a flyover state like Indiana, or are they from, Chicago? like a big city in the Midwest. So it's been kind of cool to see that now with Bandcamp, that's the kind of the great equalizer, and it doesn't really matter where you're from, as long as you sort of you try
Mhm.
to promote yourself, you put energy into that, because you know how it is. For a lot of bands, the effort kind of stops once the album's recorded, and it's
Mhm.
like we did it, we made this, it's
We
done.
made the thing.
Yeah. And then there's obviously the grind, the promotional grind of 2 or 3 months of rolling it out and making sure ears get on it. So I like that Bandcamp has made it easier to share stuff, and region doesn't seem to be as important, but it's also resulted in a lot of like quick releases that don't have a ton of thought behind them.
That is true. It
Yeah.
definitely has.
Yeah.
And
So, oh,
actually,
sorry.
one other regional question. So there are certain regions of the world that are very distinctive for, their sound. One big example is like Bergen. Everybody kind of knows what something is going to sound like coming out of there. Do you feel like Indiana has its own kind of regional sound to it?
Not really, not right now. I think it's so funny because when there's the old joke where like if a drummer moves from a city, 5 bands have to find a new drummer.
Mhm.
Like the scene here is pretty small and insular, but there's still a lot of talent.
Mhm.
So there a lot of people share members, and I'll see one person's tastes sort of inform 3 bands. So so I'll see like, okay, so the guy from the singer from Milk Toast is also in a death metal band called Scorched Earth. He's also in a traditional metal band called Cursed Blade. So I was like, can I tell what he brings to each of those? Not really. So I haven't seen like a real Indiana sound yet, which I think is kind of fun. Because
Yeah, that is kind of
you
fun.
know, later I'm hoping we'll see patterns. In maybe in a decade we'll be like, oh, you know what? There's a sort of like grittiness to how they maybe record this element of it, and it's because one engineer did everything. That's what I'm kind of hoping.
That would be kind of cool because I mean, New York has its signature sound and LA has its signature sound, and it'd be kind of cool to watch it because it is so insular right now. It'd be cool. It's got to be cool to watch it develop its own little unique thing that sets it apart from everyone else.
Yeah, I will say there was kind of a vacancy in the death metal scene. There's Obscene is the big band here,
Mhm.
and they've had some great releases. But apart from that, there wasn't a lot of death metal, and now new bands are popping up. So I'm curious to see this new little death metal bubble that's popping in Indianapolis, and what happens there.
Nice.
So I wanted to turn it over into the promo cycle that you were talking about here. So now how does one kind of figure this out as they go when they're a new label owner?
Yeah, well, I'd say hopefully you have spent some time cultivating relationships to begin with, because obviously if you have a history within the music scene and you've already worked with other labels and publicists, you're going to have an advantage. If you haven't, then you better get your mailing list ready quick. And for me, I still actually send out individual promos to around 100 targets per album, where I personally do it. And if I'm asking for coverage, I'm very specific about the coverage I want, or that I hope for. If it's a premiere, those always go out first, just so I can lock in the major timeline
Yeah.
points. But after that, like it doesn't stop. It's not like you press send on the mailing list and you're like, all right, now like let's
Mhm.
watch the fruits blossom. It really is just checking back in, checking back in a month, seeing if somebody gave it a listen, what they thought. It might be looking for new ways to reach listeners. Like I'm just getting into Reddit. I'm just getting into YouTube as a really, I mean, there's a lot of really passionate collectors and listeners on YouTube that have audiences that when I started this a year ago, I didn't really comprehend. So I think remaining on the clock, like and just sending promo codes to people who might be interested, who might share it. Like an Instagram post from someone with let's say something modest like 5,000 followers, that's super helpful. Yep. So I don't see anybody as being like too small to waste time on, whether it's someone doing an unboxing video for 40 or 50 people there's been other bands that have championed my bands that are, and those bands are way bigger. I appreciate all that stuff. So it's just trying to get creative and being like, if someone shows interest, work with them because you can't take that for granted.
Yep. No, I understand that. So you talked about kind of like making your own list before you started, correct? Because a lot of people will just start the label and they'll kind of do the promo as an afterthought. Can you kind of go into that? Unless I misunderstood what you were saying and you did it that way.
Oh yeah, no, I would say that's a great place to start with. Is make a list of writers, specifically writers, and hopefully not like slush pile general email. Think of writers that have covered music that you loved, or that are they've covered bands that are similar to music you're putting out. Reaching out to the writer and asking, hey, can I send you a promo? Do you mind if I send you some free music? Almost always the writer will say yes, or they'll just give you an email address that's for that purpose specifically. And if they say no, that's okay. That's their personal life. Like, what can you do? You're not going to get yeses everywhere.
Yep.
So I think it's always worthwhile to try to, before you start a label, be like, okay, like who could be my allies on this adventure? Because if you expect to do it alone, then enjoy your, your limited edition 30 cassette release and, to your friends and family. Like there's nothing wrong with that. That's cool. And that's like probably personally meaningful, but I'm trying to reach more people than that.
Fair. So, okay. So now you're generally just doing one-on-one hit up. You don't do the mass mail outs and stuff like that, correct?
I'm starting to do the mass email to places that I don't know and haven't been really responsive. So there's still hope, that that maybe this is the one that catches their attention. There's just certain websites, there's certain zines that haven't shown interest in what I'm doing yet. And I don't feel entitled to that. I'm not putting them on blast or whatever. I'm just like, I'm still going to keep you in the loop just in case this is the one. So I'll still send something, but I won't personally craft it. I'll be like, okay, this is a press release. This is a promo code, or there's a place to stream it. The standard stuff, to just try to make it as easy as possible for them to listen and to say yes. Yeah. And cool. We're interested in some sort of coverage.
Makes sense. Corey, did you have a follow-up on that? Because I got one different angle I want to go on.
No, you go ahead.
Cool. Okay, so now we all know you write for Decibel, so feel free this or not. Like, how do you feel? What do you feel about ads being run in print mags and online? So, yeah, I don't know if this is a bad question to be asking you or not, but I always get this question asked about print ads, online ads. I want to get your own opinion on them. And yes, sure, we're well aware where you work.
Yeah. So I think print ads are a cost that are difficult to qualify sometimes, like because there's no stats coming back at you. I've tried in the past to be like, okay, this is a code, use this code and you'll get a discount, just so I could kind of get a read on like how many how much new business I was getting. And it's just tough. It's tough to figure out, how effective was this as a sales tool. So I would say look at advertising in print as a way of ensuring that your album got in front of some very important people's eyes. And it's never a bad thing, for your project that might have been unknown to a magazine, to all of a sudden be in their consciousness is super valuable. That awareness. So I would say, it's good to do print ads once in a while, but I'm very excited to start digging more into web ads, because I'm a data junkie. My wife is a scientist, and she's running all these like data collection things, and I'm like, ooh, give me that input, man. I love stats and numbers. So I'm really excited to kind of dig more into that side and still do some print ads throughout the year, but sort of supplement them with things that'll give me maybe more demographic information on who's clicking my banner, who cares about this new album that's coming out. I think that stuff's really valuable. So I would say doing both still seems like a great idea to me.
Makes sense. Corey, did you have anything on ads? Because I think I'm almost out of topics.
I do not have anything on ads, actually. Actually, no, wait. So there are a lot of bands out there that want to invest in ads when maybe they're not quite ready. When do you think a band would be ready to invest in ads?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I probably did an ad too early for Wise Blood. And I don't regret it, because it just put money towards a magazine I like. But I wasn't really, if you can't design a great looking ad, don't spend money on it. That's the first thing. Is also like pay a designer to make it, because that's going to be a reflection on your professionalism. But if you can't support selling out your release in a week, I wouldn't do it. Because and what I mean by that is, if you can't box and ship every item you have just in case this thing takes off, then you shouldn't be spending money on an ad. Because the worst thing you could do is sell everything out, botch the release, and then have it follow you that you couldn't deliver, on the shipping side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you have systems in place where even if it takes the whole band being together in a room, you're going to get all that stuff out, within a week, or communicate very effectively to your fans what the wait would be. I think that would be the only downside. The rest is just money. Like you lose a little money on an ad. A guy in a band, the Mound Builders here, said, if I ever make $1 million playing metal, it's because I spent $2 million to get there. So, it's waving goodbye to some money happens all the time. You break instruments, you break gear. I think investing into an ad is just one of those expenditures that hopefully you feel good about it, but if not, you kind of like you let it go and hope better for the next one.
Which kind of leads me to a follow-up, because this morning I actually had a client send me something where a magazine had requested an ad, and they would give them an interview and a review in exchange for the ad. I want to actually hear both your guys' opinion on this. I don't like it, but Sean, let's hear your opinion on this first.
Oh man, yeah, no, I've received so many of the similar offers, and I'm into. I want genuine excitement for my music, and pay to play stuff is not for me. I don't want to condemn it fully, because some bands will do that, and it might be a great career choice for them as a long run decision. So I don't want to like smear anybody that's just trying to do better for themselves. But it's not for me. I target writers that have a track record of loving the genre, that have put in, years of great journalistic work, to cover things they're passionate about. So something like that. I would also question just how much love goes into the magazine if it's a constant, like, we'll cover anybody who gives us money. That sounds like maybe the vetting for the magazine wouldn't be what I would want as a fan, because I want, I know a lot of these websites are excited to review stuff. I know Albert, is excited to put Immolation on the cover, and I think by Albert Mudrian from Decibel. But a magazine like that sounds like something that is just a little outside my comfort. So I'll be here slumming it, hustling for hustling for coverage the old-fashioned way.
Fair. Corey, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's outdated, number one, because print is only for a small subset of fans.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see the ROI on an ad. And a lot of the times I feel like it's a vanity thing, to where a band can, oh, look, we're in print. Look, it's kind of the same as when authors do like a vanity printing of their book because no other publisher would pick them up, is kind of what it feels like to me. And like you said, I don't want to dog people who do this, because there are some genres it's really helpful. Goth metal is one that it's, the two bigger publications that handle it, buying an ad there can have some ROI to it, because that is kind of an old school mentality in that particular genre. But it feels a little bit predatory to me, and it like irks me when people try to, squeeze an artist for every last dime that they have. And that's like one of my big pet peeves. But that's just my thoughts on it. I think you can get more of an ROI running a digital ad than putting money into print.
Fair. No, I can understand that. Okay, well, I think, do we have anything else for Sean before we wrap up, Corey?
I am good on my end. We've covered a lot of, fun ins and outs of running a label. But do you have any other parting words of wisdom or anything else you want to throw out there, Sean?
Oh man. Well, I
unload your wisdom.
Yeah. Well, I think don't be afraid to be a part of your community. I think that's the biggest thing. As I see a lot of labels that will, and by label, I'm going to focus on like one person labels. The bigger ones, they operate, in their own way. But if you're running a one person label, you have to protect and guard that flame that made you start it. So don't overload yourself with releases. Don't make it feel like an assembly line. Create boundaries. You're going to have to create a lot of boundaries because everyone's going to want a piece of your time, and it adds up. And there's only so many minutes in the day, despite my attempts to discover more. Apart from those, community is the success behind Wise Blood, like for sure. Without this city embracing me, I wouldn't have had the early success that has let me now have a wider listenership. So I make connections with small businesses around here all the time. I have a Wise Blood beer that just came out this week.
Nice.
And there's been burger places that name burgers after our bands. Pizza places are going to run specials, about our bands and all that.
Nice.
So that stuff, that means you matter. That means you matter in your scene, and people will be familiar with you. So don't be afraid to go out and meet your neighbors, I think is my big thing. But yeah, just try to bring positivity to what you do if you're starting a label. And like sincerely, I welcome anyone who's thinking about starting a label. to submit some questions to me, because I had a ton of help at the start from guys like Thomas Haywood at Redefining Darkness, and James over at Transylvanian Recordings.
Nice.
Guys like that, other people like you that have seen a different side of the business. Everyone has wisdom, and please use it. Use that wisdom for a better launch.
Totally. All right. So with that, thank you, Sean, for coming on, and party on, Corey.
Party on, guys.